One of the most maddening things about working in marketing at Nike was trying to get our top level athletes to wear the latest and greatest product. This summer, we've been watching amazing soccer on display at the Euros and Copa America. We saw the finals this weekend, and I was reminded that the global football stars are actually great participants in wearing the latest and greatest colorways. So today, we are going to talk about the difference between brand marketing and sports marketing at these big companies. We're going to talk about the biggest challenge between athletes and those companies and the conflicting incentives that they might have. We will talk about the NFL, the NBA. We're going to talk about the rise of cleat customization and how many athletes actually get custom shoes behind the scenes made to look like new ones and dispel a bit of the rumors that are in there. I'll talk to you about my 4 framework for sports marketing to kick us off, and we'll throw a little career wisdom in there. I'm on vacation this week, but I'm committed to doing a YouTube video a week. So what we lack in tech, you will still gain in wisdom and knowledge, I assure you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I spent 10 years in brand marketing at Nike. I spent the last 20 years in social media and sports marketing. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to hear more about, and I'll try to deliver for you. I use my wisdom throughout my career to try to teach people about sports marketing today. All right, so let's jump in. First, if you are trying to get a career in sports marketing, you can go click a link below. I've got a PDF with my career wisdom that includes podcast advice, all kinds of things, or you can just go to howtojob@nike.com. I got a bunch of resources there for you, including workshops, podcasts, all kinds of things. So jump in there. That'll really help you. Next, another free framework that I offer will be below in the caption. But let's start with the 4 framework that I outline. Any good sports marketing plan has 4 elements, and those were on full display this summer throughout Euros and Copa. So we have a hero, a product, the moment, and a medium, or in this case, media, that is used to communicate people about those former 3 items. And let's pause for a second and just say, I'm an American. I call it soccer. I call soccer boots cleats. I call the field, not the pitch. So get off of me. I'm getting roasted on TikTok right now. I'm not deep in soccer, but I'm dangerous enough to know a little bit. I know that they're called boots. I know they're called kits. So if I screw up a little bit of the terminology, shoot me. I'm an American. All right. So this summer, we saw Nike lead with Mbappe and their Mercurial cleat. They have a lead colorway, which is orange or bright pink. And often these companies are using a big name athlete to promote that product. So the hero is the athlete. On Adidas' side, we had Jude Bellingham, not Bellingham. I learned that through my TikTok comments. Jude is one of the top athletes for Adidas, and one of their products that they're trying to push is the F50 cleat. The other young man who just turned 17 on Spain, I forget his name, but he also is wearing that F50, and Adidas is touting that as well, using the young goat and the older goat like Messi, and they've really doubled down there. They had a huge tournament. These guys are crushing right now. Adidas is doing great. And that's honestly great for Nike because nothing feels Nike quite like getting beat. And so I hope that them continuing to get beat by Adidas in different arenas will help them come back as a company and light a fire under them. I hope that we will see that at the Olympics this summer. So we've got Jude Bellingham pushing the F50. Adidas did an amazing post about that. We've got Mbappe and the Mercurial. And whoever Puma is and their big athlete, they would be pushing that. I saw New Balance has the young man from Brazil, and they have Saka as well from England. I didn't see a lot of what New Balance was doing. They did do a really cool collaboration with Saka and ALD out of New York. The key thing to take away here is that these companies are utilizing these big sport moments like Copa America or the Euro Championship to get in the conversation starter. It's important to remember that social media is social, and it is the place where people want to gather to talk about one big thing. So yesterday, all anyone wanted to talk about in the morning perhaps was Wimbledon, and then in the afternoon, we were talking about Euros, and then in the evening, Copa. And sometimes that's good, like Euros, sometimes that's bad, like all the disaster that was happening ahead of Copa, but it is what people are talking about. And so these companies are utilizing this forum and this conversation starter to elevate these athletes, to help elevate their product. And that leads us to the source of the biggest rub that exists between the highest level of athletes and the highest level of these companies. So companies exist at their foundation to sell people new things, to make money ultimately they're trying to serve the needs of athletes in the case of sports companies. And those products should be made to help equip these athletes to succeed in their sport. But athletes' goal is to win and to get better and to do whatever it takes to win a championship, to win MVP, to win the spot on their team, whatever it is. And so the key, though, for companies is fundamentally, if you want to sell more things and make more money, you need to sell new things. You can't just rely on your old things. Now, let's set aside for a second the retro conversation where companies are bringing about their old product from the 80s or 90s, which is a heavy strategy in sportswear companies. But fundamentally, most of these companies, like Nike's mission statement, is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And innovation is the bedrock of most of these sports companies. They were founded because they developed a new product, a new service, a new thing that would help athletes win and do better. Last week, we talked about the marathon shoe that Nike developed to help Kipchoge break the 2-hour marathon record. Under Armour, in fact, started by making base layer breathable apparel because their founder was a football player at Maryland. Nike was founded on a track trying to help athletes get better and runners get better. Adidas, Adi Dassler, was making football boots to help athletes get better in the sport of soccer or global football. And so these companies have to continue to do that. They need to innovate and they need to make new products. And the marketing team's job is to sell new products. They're not in sales, but their job is to help market the products and talk to people about the newest, latest, and greatest in an offering from a company. And so that brings us to the difference in the brand marketing teams and the sports marketing. I was in brand marketing at Nike. Our job was to help keep the brand fresh, new, keep the brand voice sharp and relevant to the customer in whatever category we were working in. So whether you were in football or women's or basketball or global football is what it's called, soccer. And your job is to make sure you understand what consumers are asking for, what are the cultural trends, what is happening, what are the problems you're trying to solve, what are the products that a company is trying to sell, what are the new things that are coming down the pipe. And you bring all of these things together, and then you sell and steer a vision, try to help carry out marketing campaigns, brand voice, the look, feel, tone, and you're working with a lot of teams, creative teams, PR teams, the advertising teams, the social media teams to bring all of this to life. And you want everything to be clear, consistent, cohesive, and you're trying to drive home a message. And so brand teams would work with creative teams to help bring about that bright color that was on display in Copa and in the Euros, whether it was that bright orange or for Puma it was a bright purple. For Adidas, it was that bright blue and red. Companies have multiple teams who are all trying to carry these things out. And that brings the difference in sports marketing. So brand teams are actually working with all those other teams, and sports marketing is one of the teams that they're utilizing. Now, I generally refer to my content as sports marketing, but inside an organization like Nike, Adidas, Puma, Under Armour, the sports marketing division are the people who are tasked with signing and serving athletes and teams on a day-to-day basis. And so they are identifying the talent pipeline, they are managing a large budget and deciding which contracts to renew, which contracts to go find and re-sign, which contracts to go let go and go sign new people. And so they have an ever-evolving task. And there's an interesting fundamental rub here between the ultimate objective of brand teams or sales teams and sports marketing teams. And of course, overall, they're all trying to let the brand win, and you want to, be on the best athletes and be relevant, but there are nuanced differences that make it really hard sometimes. So sports marketing teams are incentivized to have something called share of presence, or they want to be represented on television or on trophy stands or in championships with a certain percentage of representation across each different sport. And each sport has its own sports marketing team generally. And so sometimes they are not fully incentivized to have the latest and greatest product on the foot of the athlete. Their job is basically just have a swoosh or 3 stripes or a Puma cat on someone's foot when they score a goal. If you're on the marketing team and you just spent all your time trying to update and get the mercurial, add up and you have all the billboard signage around the Euros or around Copa, and somebody scores a goal like the young man from Spain did and actually was wearing an older cleat, you're probably a little frustrated, and it can be quite maddening. And this was a fundamental rub that would often have. So this week I looked, and it looked like global football stars do this way better than any other sport. So they're all out there wearing the latest and greatest of innovation. And I texted a friend who'd been in the industry for a long time and asked him, what is the difference? Because I worked in American football, and one of the biggest challenges with these athletes would never wear the newest cleats. It was maddening. Now, of course, the NFL has restrictions on color, so you can't have these bright pinks and purples and greens, but there is no restrictions on the latest product. And so we would be able to make these products in the colors that athletes would need them for team colors, and they still wouldn't wear them. And he had a couple of interesting observations. One is that boot to ball is so much more important in something like soccer. So the actual cleat or boot is hitting the soccer ball, and there is innovation and materials that are allowing the boot to interact with the ball in certain ways. Sometimes there's more grip on the toe or on the insole or on the infoot, and sometimes there is certain leathers that are better for different positions on the field. And so the athletes are maybe more incentivized. There's also a culture that is well known that the top guys get the newest products first, and so they want to stunt on their buddies. And the interesting thing that I think in American sports, perhaps, or the sports that are more rooted in America, like American football and basketball, is that athletes wear more retro product. So the number one most popular cleat in American football, it has an insane cult following, is something called the Vapor Carbon. It was made back in 2014, and those go on eBay now for anywhere from $500 to $1,000. NFL players will literally go and buy them off of eBay to wear them in games, even if they're sponsored athletes. And this was maddening as someone who was pushing the latest Vapor Cleat or Alpha or Force Savage back in Nike football. Athletes, I don't think, care as much about that latest and greatest innovation, because if we go back to what their goals are, they want to wear something that is most comfortable. And sometimes that might be fundamentally opposed to what a marketing team wants at a company, and they don't really care at the end of the day if you're trying to sell something brand new, if a different shoe or a different cleat or boot fits them better. So there are a couple of examples of that in soccer, but the most recent one that we had in my hometown team, the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic has the Luka 1, he has the Luka 2, and he is debuting the Luka 3. And Jordan Brand partnered with him to debut the Luka 3, which looks great in my opinion, but is probably not fully there by the way that they've done like wear testing and sampling and all of that. They're probably almost there with him. And this is where one of the big challenges comes. So once they start to get injured, it gets towards the end of the season, there's championship, the playoffs are when their names are actually made. They're going to revert to the thing that they know and feel most comfortable in. And for Luka, that was the Luka 1. It wasn't even the Luka 2. The Luka 2 has been something that he's had over the last year, and they're about to debut the 3. The 3 as a marketing team is when you would want him to wear it the most, as the highest visibility. So it's not a coincidence that they rolled out that marketing at the beginning of the playoffs. If we go back to the 4 framework, you have your hero, your moment. And so your hero is Luka Doncic. The product would be the Luka 3. The moment is the NBA playoffs, and ideally is in the NBA finals. But he ended up wearing a different product, the 1 that he felt more comfortable in. But this is not just Luka. Many athletes, the Kobe 5 is perhaps the most popular product in the NBA. And really all of the shoes that have been made since the Kobe 4 and 5 that really trend with people. The Sabrina is getting a lot of love right now. What is the Sabrina? The Sabrina is just a reskinned Kobe 4 and 5, especially the Sabrina 2. People love it. And this raises the question, maybe we've reached peak innovation in some of these products. Maybe you can't innovate that much in the last 10 to 15 years. And that is probably true. But these athletes are paid a good amount of money to wear the latest products. And this becomes one of those fundamental challenges that exist within the marketing landscape. So one of the ways that people have figured out how to get around that is cleat customization. If an athlete is working with a product team at one of these big companies to create a line plan of really cool cleats like we did with Odell Beckham Jr. You are doing that months and months and months in advance. It takes a really long time to develop cleats to the highest level. And this, again, is one of the big rubs. So athletes go to cleat customizers. But if you watch some of these cleat customizers, they are literally just cutting the bottoms and cleat plates off of uppers and then gluing and sewing these back on. If you were a brand, that's fine for them. It might be quite dangerous for the athlete, and some of them are risking it. I don't think we've seen real big blowout like we had with Zion at Duke, but that will happen eventually. And companies can't sacrifice quality control. If they are going to put their name on it, they have to make sure that it's rigorously tested, that it's gone through the due process that they need to do, and be able to equip the athlete with that product. And so that's just this fundamental speed game. The cleat customizers can do something in a week for an athlete. When athletes are working with the big companies, they have to plan out, and they have to be able to have that patience and have to be able to have that strategy to say, these are the stories and the product colors and all that I'm going to stand for. And I'm going to stick to that. They can't go on the latest trend or how they feel a week before that some of the cleat customizers can do for them. And so this is one of those fissures that's going to be continuing to be a challenge for some of these athletes. I saw a lot of people in my comments who said, oh, but these athletes, they have the ones that look new, but they're just completely custom and they're actually wearing old cleats. That is being grossly overstated for a lot of athletes. I would say at the highest levels in each of these sports, you have maybe 5 to 25 of the athletes in each sport who are going to get super custom cleats for them. Sometimes that would include a wider toe box. They might need something that's roomier. They might have different cleat patterns in different places for them. They may use a different type of cleat or molding for them. And that is certainly available for the highest levels and the signature guys and gals. They can get shoes that are made for them at different times. But I would say that's grossly overstated. Not every athlete out there is wearing something old made to look new. It is a really rigorous process that takes a lot of sampling and back and forth with the factories. Things are being shipped overseas, and it takes a long timeline to be able to do this stuff. That's probably one of the biggest misunderstandings that people have in the footwear game, is these products take a long time to make. And even though we have the speed of the internet and the democratization of manufacturing, it still is a really rigorous process to make footwear and to make sure that it stands up to the test that these companies can put behind these athletes. So I would say that's grossly overstated for a lot of people, but there are a few athletes who are getting those really custom things. Lastly, in the NBA, we have retros that are still really popular with athletes. There are a lot of signature athletes who are definitely going to get those custom footwear, but it still begs the question, like, which do athletes want? Do they want the latest and greatest in innovation, or do they just want something that looks cool and that feels comfortable? Many of these athletes will change shoes sometimes every quarter, sometimes every half, and so they're not putting as much wear and tear on it as your average consumer. And I think one of the best examples that we're going to continue to see these companies build off of is the Kobe Protro models. And so that is basically saying, hey, we have all these athletes who love this retro, not great for I believe this came straight from Kobe. So Kobe wanted to bring back the classics, but put the latest innovation in them. And it's a great concept. Nike Football tried this with the Vapor Carbon Cleat. And so they've re-released a new version of the Vapor Carbon with new materials. I have yet to find a single football athlete who thinks they hit the mark on this. Obviously, they probably did consumer focus groups of people who maybe told them that, but I haven't seen a single person in my comments or a player who said they're as good as the original one. I can't tell you why they won't go back and make that, but I think fundamentally the company would have to be admitting that their newest designers, products, materials are just not as good as they say they are. And so I think it goes fundamentally against a company that prides itself on innovation all the time and trying to make new products and trying to think of new ways to help serve athletes. And so at the end of the day, maybe serving athletes, giving them what they feel most comfortable in. And that is a W overall. You'd much rather have your athletes score a goal in the highest level stage wearing your brand in an older product. But the ultimate win-win is that you have the biggest athlete on the biggest stage wearing your newest product in the lead colorway that everyone can buy. You have media to support it, and you have a clear place that people can buy it, get the product that they want, that they see the pros wear. Unfortunately, it doesn't always come together, and hopefully if you take anything away from my content, it's that something that seems very simple sometimes is often much more complicated. All right, thanks for tuning in this week. I'm on vacation this week. I'll be back to your regularly scheduled programming next week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on this channel. Let me know in the comments what you want to hear more about. I'm trying to take notes on those things, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Bye-bye.